Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today we're talking about indie guitars like this one. I don't mean guitars which are used in that particular genre of music. I'm talking about the company Indie Guitars. Those of you with a long enough memory will remember the early to mid 2000s where this company were all over the guitar press. Magazines like Guitar Techniques, Guitarist magazine and so on. And back in those days I still used to buy those magazines. Has anybody else, by the way, like me, just kind of not bothered in the past few years buying any of those magazines? Let me know. Anyway, these guitars were all over those magazines, getting reviewed, usually very, very good reviews, and, you know, full page adverts and so on. And now you don't really hear from them. And I'm just curious as to why, because as we'll discover, they made very good guitars at very good prices. So, what was the deal with this company then? Well, they were founded in 2002 by a pair of British guys whose names escape me at the moment. I do apologise. And the business model was that they would design the guitars in the UK and have them manufactured in the Far East, which is, you know, pretty standard practice. It's a business model that's been adopted by many guitar companies before and since. I mean, you know, Chapman guitars spring to mind, for example. And as well as all of the usual copies and clones like this one, they did do their own more original designs like this one and this one. And as you can see, certainly in the case of this one that's on screen at the moment, they were really, really rather nice looking instruments with lots of blingy ornamentation and very, very good build quality if the reviews were to be believed. And, you know, they sounded good too. And this guitar here, well, let's talk about this one. This is quite obviously a copy of a PRS. And it's a case in point, really. I mean, you've got such a level of ornamentation on this guitar. First of all, let's start with the main bits and pieces. You've got a single-piece mahogany body on a Far Eastern copy guitar. I know. There is some cost-cutting and cost-conscious measures, like you can see. There's a scarf joint, you know, at the headstock, keeping the, you know, in terms of the neck, but, you know, single-piece mahogany body. The real kind of thing is this top here. I mean, look at that. I don't know if you can see the carving in that. We're going to take a look at some close-ups later. But this top is either the cleverest manipulation of a veneer that I've ever seen to get it to go over that carve, or it just genuinely is a big, thick lump of maple. And you can actually see on the cutaway here that it is just one big lump of maple. Beautifully made, nicely buck matched. You've got the recessed controls, you've got gold plate and lashings of abalone everywhere, Grover machine heads, and all of this is on a guitar that cost at the time roughly the same as a PRS SE, and this is arguably closer to a USA PRS spec. This guitar is actually part of a limited edition run. It's the IPR1 first anniversary model, which, as the name suggests, came out on the first anniversary of this model's inception. And there were only 200 of these made. This is number 96, and there's quite a lot of debate about where number 1 of that limited edition run resides, and the general consensus is that it's lost. It's, you know, nowhere to be found. It's probably been destroyed. Nobody knows where it is. I know where it is, but that's another story. Anyway, yes, this is number 96 of that limited edition run. And as I say, you know, Single piece mahogany body, mahogany neck, ebony fretboard. As you'll see in the close-ups that we're going to look at shortly, you've got some beautiful, very, very cleanly executed inlay work in mother of pearl. Oh, I suspect it's pearloid, but it looks like mother of pearl, and what looks like genuine abalone. It's a very, very, very nice guitar. In a lot of ways, I prefer this guitar to the PRS SE that I had in here for review a few weeks ago. It's nicer to play, and it's just got a more vintage humbucker kind of tone to it, which is kind of where my tastes are at the moment. The real mystery is why this company just seemed to disappear. They are still trading. I believe they're under new ownership now. But I think the only place where you can get their guitars these days is from their website, which I'll put a link to in the description box below. But they're just, they aren't making anything as gorgeous looking as this, it has to be said. This guitar belongs to one of my students, who is something of an avid collector. And he's one of these guys who, when you ask him how many guitars he's got, he has to scratch his head and think, and the best I can get out of him is over 100. So, you know. And when he came to me for his first lesson and picked up, just to have a little bit of a noodle on it, this guitar, my Harley Benton CST 24, his reaction was, "Oh my God, that feels exactly like my Indy IPR 1." And that's true. This does feel as if, you know, Harley Benton sort of developed a custom shop operation. You know what I mean? There's just everything feels... I mean, there's nothing wrong with that Harley Benton. I love that guitar. But everything on this just feels that little bit better. The volume and tone pots... you know, do you remember when you used to get a really high-end old hi-fi unit with like a Bang & Olufsen or something, and you'd turn the volume knob and it had that beautiful, smooth, weighted feel? That's how these pots feel. Same with the switch. There's just a solidity to it that you would expect on like a USA-built guitar, and it feels like a USA-built guitar in that respect, but it also feels very much like Harley Benton in terms of the neck profile and everything. You could almost think that the factory that made these is now making these. It would not surprise me one iota if that were the case. If you see one of these guitars listed anywhere, then I urge you to just pull the trigger on it if you can. This guitar, I don't know how much these are going for, but I will tell you that one of the regular run of this particular model, I saw on, not the anniversary one with all the ornamentation and inlays and stuff, I saw one of those on eBay a couple of weeks ago for 700 quid, and it sold in a heartbeat. 700 quid for a used Korean-made PRS copy. That's astonishing, really, isn't it? But, you know, market value is driven by many things, including scarcity, I guess, and overall quality. And the fact that guitars like that, if you can find them when they do crop up, go for those kind of prices very, very quickly, is an indicator of how good these guitars are. Okay, so that's enough waffling from me. I think it's about time we had a close-up look at this guitar and had a listen to some of the sounds it creates. You can probably guess what sort of sounds it's going to make. It's mahogany, maple, humbuckers, Alnico 5 humbuckers, by the way, I would guess by the sounds of them. So let's take a closer look at the guitar and have a listen to how she sounds. and I think you'll agree that is really rather tasty. Truth be told, this isn't a guitar I would covet. It's a beautiful guitar, don't get me wrong, and I've enjoyed having it around the office and playing it immensely. But just this level of ornamentation and bling is a little bit too much for me. It's, I don't know, I mean, look at me. You know, do I look like a guy who dresses the way this guitar is dressed? Do you know what I mean? Frankly, putting a guitar like this in my hands with this amount of gold plate and abalone and everything, it's a little bit like looking at a chimpanzee wearing a Rolex, isn't it? But it is a beautiful instrument, and if this kind of opulent look is what floats your boat, and you see one of these, then just grab it. I urge you. You will not regret it. And that's pretty much it for today, folks. The curious case of indie guitars. Where are they? If you know anything more than I do about them, and believe me, I've scoured the internet looking for details, and there's just not a lot of information out there. So if you've got some inside track on what happened to this company and why what looked to be a fantastically promising guitar company that were producing excellent guitars at excellent prices, why they just seemed to fall off a cliff, let me know. I would be genuinely interested to know more about them. And with that, I will bid you a good day for today. I will just, of course, mention that I have a course on sale at the moment, Making the Modes Easy, and it does exactly what it says on the tin, plain English explanations of everything you need to know to master the modes on the guitar, all the scale patterns you need, loads of jam tracks, loads of licks to learn, and no confusing jargon and techno babble to kind of tie you in knots. It's available from there, and although the price says $39.99, Udemy, who are selling this for me, are always offering discounts and coupons, so you're never probably going to pay that full price for it, so check it out. If you would like, on the other hand, some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, then give me a shout via the details at the end of this video. If you live on Teesside in the northeast of England, you can come along for a face-to-face lesson, or wherever else you are in the world, you can have a lesson via Skype. And whichever way you do it, your first lesson is, of course, free. So what have you got to lose? And with that, I'll bid you a good day and look forward to seeing you all again next time around, where we're going to be looking at my dream guitar. Yes, I'm quite excited about that one. I'll see you next time, folks. Bye for now.